we need to talk about the golden algae for just a minute. These are, this is algae that is multicellular, and it is golden in color due to the carotenoids. The dominant pigments are going to be chlorophyll A and C, but their secondary pigments are the carotenoids, so it gives them a golden color. Most of them live in freshwater. Some of them will live in marine environments. But there is one thing that Chrysophila does that makes them a little bit unique. And I can tell you guys that when you have your test, I'm going to point out the unique stuff about each one because, they all are asexual or sexual. They're all multicellular. They don't have a whole lot in common except for the fact that they are eukaryotic. So I'm going to pick out the special features. And in this one, his special feature or its special feature is the ability to form what's called a cyst. Now, the cyst is highly resistant to poor environments. And so it allows this algae to be able to live in environments that are not optimal for growth, such as below a frozen surface of a lake or on a dry lake bed. So in order to preserve the species, it has this method of encysting itself, walling itself up in a cyst, a lot like, the cyst that we have, until conditions are favorable again. They do contain, their cells, when you look at them on a cellular basis, they do have flagella, and one is not the same in length as the other. They're unequal length, and they're at opposite ends of the cell. They appear yellowish brown because of the carotenoids. They contain chlorophyll A and C, and one of the unique things about them is that they store their food, now not as a starch, but they store it as oil. And so a lot of times when you've got oil rigs that are out drilling for oil, they come into these deposits, which are actually the golden algae. All right, their phylum is Chrysophila. They are the golden algae. They're multicellular. Their dominant pigments are chlorophyll A and C. You might want to add here that their accessory pigment are the carotenoids. They're phototrophs, and I'm not going to ask you that genus. That's just a genus of one of them. These are sometimes, except for their length and the way the thallus is, they're mistaken for kelp. But kelp have got a deeper color because of the fucoxanthin, and they definitely are a lot bigger. All right, let's talk about Euglanophyta for a minute, because the euglenoids are, they really have a unique feature. There's about 1,000 species of them too. They're flagellated. You can see the flagella in the picture. They're unicellular. And the thing that is unique about them is that they can be both autotrophic and heterotrophic. In favorable conditions, they can carry out photosynthesis. So they're aquatic, and if the sun is out, they can move to the top of the water and carry out photosynthesis. If there is no sunlight out and they can't detect light, then they become heterotrophic. The pigments they contain are A and B, and they do have some carotenoids, but they're getting mainly their colors from the A and B. They're freshwater. Some of them have been known to live in really damp soil or dirt, but and some of them, I think rare species of them can actually live in the digestive tract of some animals. But here you can see what they look like. They appear green because they do have chloroplasts, so they do have the chlorophyll as their dominant pigment, but they have a very special sensory, what's called eye spot, that we'll talk about in just a minute. Now, the genus of the euglenoid, Euglanophyta, that I want you to know is Euglena. That's kind of simple. They are abundant in fresh water. They're definitely in waters that have been more polluted. There's excess nutrients for them to live on. They don't have a cell wall. They're very, very flexible, and they can change their shape. Now, what they do have, and it's called an eye spot. And so the eye spot is actually right here where the red is. And this is a sensory. It's not a seeing. They can't see. All they can do is detect light with it. This is a big deal because having a true eye will not come a lot later in the animal kingdom, but this is just a sensory little organelle. If it's even an organelle, it's just like a little sensory portion that is able to detect light, and that's all they can detect. So when light is out, their eye spot picks it up. They carry out photosynthesis. When the eye spot cannot detect light, then they become heterotrophic. They do contain a contractile vacuole to expel their water. And this next paragraph that just says usually they are autotrophic, except for in times where it's dark and they become heterotrophic. All right, Euglenophyta, Euglena is their common name. They're unicellular. They have chlorophyll A and B. Carotenoids are their secondary pigment. They're phototrophs, and I do want you to know Euglena.